My approach to teaching involves starting with myself first and making sure that I'm passionate about what I do and that I believe in the value of what I'm teaching. And here's why. When you teach, if you don't buy into it, if you're bored by it, your kids are not going to be interested either. How many of you feel like you are just, you know you're going to do well today on a response to literature? Okay, that's very encouraging for me to see because we've worked really hard on this, but today might be a little trickier than you think going in. Today's assignment is a response to literature, and this response to literature is taking a piece of literature, a very short piece of literature, it's a fairy tale, and the kids are responding by summarizing it and connecting it to their real lives and evaluating. You're going to have to relate to a character today that you're not used to relating to. Now, when we say identify with a character, what do we usually mean when we're talking about identifying with a character? My own philosophy on teaching writing goes back to some experiences that I had when I was a kid. And I remember teachers who were very good teachers not exactly knowing how to get us to write. And sometimes they would say things like, well, just pick up the pencil and start and try. But for a kid, that's not enough. A kid needs to know where to write it, and do I start at the top, and how do I start my paragraph, and what do I say next? You know, there's a word I'm going to use that's going to signal you that you need to explain the rest of the problem, and that's however. And so out of that has developed an idea that I use a lot, and this is nothing new for education. I use writing frames. This is the very first frame, which talks about summarizing, and it gives them a scaffold for how to navigate through what it's mostly about. Explain to me what summarizing is. This is one of the most important parts of a response to literature. Tell me about summarizing. One. Okay, to summarize a story means to tell it in your own words. Very good. This is the frame that allows them to connect it to their own lives through personal examples. When we connect to real life, what are we really doing? We're doing something in that, and maybe people who've never heard of that phrase might not understand it. Jewel?
Relating to our in real life.
Okay, we're relating our real life actions and behaviors and experiences. We're relating to the story. And then this final frame is usually their favorite because this is their chance to evaluate it and give their opinion and say what they think. It's key that kids understand that they themselves are authors. And if they've ever written a narrative and they've written a story, or they've ever written an essay of any kind, they're an author. So today, they're responding to literature as authors. Now, technically, haven't you all written literature before? Yeah, you definitely have. You've written narratives. Could I write a response to literature on your narratives? So does that mean that you are all authors? Technically? I mean, you might not be published, you might not have a book out there, but one of my primary approaches in teaching a lesson to kids is by always starting with the academic vocabulary that they need to know first. And there's a reason behind that. I believe that kids need to know why they're learning what they're learning and what to do with it. Not just the facts, but they need to know what's the point behind the exercise that they're about to do. Now, when I say literature, text, passage, any of those types of things, what does that mean? What is literature? When I say literature, what is that, Adrian? A type of writing, very good. And it's written by somebody, right? And so at the beginning of this lesson, you see me teaching them the verbiage and reminding them about everything from identifying with a character to evaluating, because they need to know why they learn and how they learn and why it's important. When you relate to a character or you identify with a character, it means that you're comparing yourself to them and seeing if you're similar, seeing if you're different. And sometimes when you say that you can identify with someone, it means that you've got some similarities there. So I know that they're prepared to be able to navigate through difficult writing tasks. And the more you go on in school, the more you're going to have those writing tasks, and you need to be able to deal with them.